How are you today? I'm Rogers Anderson, and as we travel around Williamson County and look at the different people and the places, this show today is a special friend of mine and a very, very good man, Stan Tyson, who many of you will know. And Stan, thank you for being with us today.
Appreciate it, Rogers. Thank you.
Stan has a very illustrious life. Not that you're going to die today or anything.
Well, let's hope not.
But he's a man that has served in many capacities, many roles. He was on the Board of Zoning Appeals. He was a county commissioner. He's, for many years here, many of you know him as our Veteran Service Officer.
That's right.
And he's currently still contributing to our community by serving on the Highway Board. Now, I've got all that out of the way.
And the Board of Equalization.
And the Board of Equalization. But let's start with Stan Tyson, the boy. Where were you raised, and how did you migrate into Williamson County?
Okay, I started out, I was born in Nashville back in 1930. And I went to West End High School and went into the University of Tennessee in 1948. Graduated from there with a commission as a second lieutenant in the infantry through the ROTC program. And I went off into the military that summer. So I started off in 1952 in the Army. Was assigned to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, jumping out of airplanes with the 11th Airborne Division. And I came down here to visit a friend of mine. Of course, my folks lived in Nashville, and I decided to go swimming. And I came out to Willow Plunge, and I ran in.
You got to interrupt you. You got to tell people where Willow Plunge.
Okay, Willow Plunge was a private swimming pool, privately owned swimming pool, out on the Lewisburg Pike, just about where after you cross the railroad track. It was over to the right, and there were airplanes that would come in and fly people around on the weekends, and people would picnic out there. There were two big pools. The water's cold as ice, and it's spring fed. And so I went out there to go swimming, and I ran into a friend of mine, and he said, "I know a girl you need to meet," which got my attention. And he said, "Her name's Dorothy Lane." Said she lives on a farm here in the county. And he said, "Let me go call her." So he did, and Dorothy Lane and I went out that night. Went out the next afternoon, and that was the 30th of May of 1953. We got married the 2nd of August of 1953, and I went to Korea the 18th of October of 1953. That first year went by in a hurry. But that's how I got attached to Williamson County. And we went away. I was in the Army 24 years, and we came out at the end of '72. We built our home very close to where Dorothy was raised. And so we've been here ever since.
You had, I know you won't brag on yourself, but there was a period of time in that military you probably didn't think you was ever going to get back.
It got testy, as they say. I was with Korea was easy because I got there right when that one ended, so I wasn't involved in the war part of Korea. Vietnam is a little different. I went to Vietnam with the 25th Infantry as a battalion exec. I got involved in the combat there with the kids out in the jungle, and that's where I've got my baptism, as they said. As the guy told me, that's where you met the elephant. Mm-hmm. And then I went back again in '71, and I commanded a battalion in the 1st Air Cav. And so I saw both ends of that war.
You received quite a few medals. We won't get into all of that, but there was a period of time in Vietnam that you saved many a boy and saved his life, and I know that.
I don't know who you've been talking to.
Your unit was under heavy fire, and just a period of time that I'm sure was a very, it's unfortunate. You've been in the military, I've been in the military, and things happened in the war that we like to kind of forget, but at the same time, you have a great love and appreciation and allegiance, and so you kind of brought that back here, and in several years, we were able to really draw on that. But I know you came back, and you've had some children, and they blessed you with some grandchildren.
That's right, and one great-grandchild.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we got one of those too, so we're expanding. But I had two companies one time that both of them were in a particular fight. Both of them were awarded the Presidential Unit Citation, which is hard to come by.
Yes, it is.
And so they were outstanding young men, and the Vietnam veteran carried a lot of criticism, but I never found the time that the kids I served with didn't do the job tremendously.
Well, when I think back to time, and I think back in the 70s, Tet offenses were in the 60s and the 70s. It was not a period of time. There were a lot of ticker tape parades, and our country was at a very different level of appreciation for our military. There were a lot of people mad at certain people in Washington, and just thought and said a lot of things that I'm sure as we got older, I'm sure they've wished they hadn't always said those things. That's my 2 cents
There you
worth.
go.
But those young men that served and came back home, for the most part, you've got memories, you've got friends, but you didn't do a lot of talking about it. But you did your talking in a different way. I remember that we had a place down at 5 Points here in Franklin, and you and several others devoted your time to create what we affectionately refer to now as our Veterans Corner.
There you go.
And a lot of time and effort went into that people today can go and see and enjoy and have quiet time and look at their family members. And you started a program, the pavers, the bricks that are laid out there, and put in a lot of time and effort to show appreciation to those men, not just in Williamson County and not just Vietnam, but all the way back almost, I guess, to the Indian War.
We go back, in fact, in our circle of KIAs, killed in action, from Williamson County, we go back to the War of 1812. And we have about 20 who were probably fighting the Creek Indians, because the Creeks were being encouraged by the British to rise against the Americans. And they were called the volunteer mounted gunmen. Now, they had to furnish their own horses, they furnished their own uniforms, they furnished their own weapons, and they furnished their own equipment. I don't think any two of them probably looked the same, but they were called the mounted gunmen, and they served down probably around Fort Mims, Alabama, down that area. Our park really, if you let me expand on this just
Please.
for a second, we've got several sections. We've got the KIA Circle.
You got to tell what KI means.
Oh, KIA means killed in action. These are Williamson Countyans who lost their life while in military service during a period of war. And we have, of course, the War of 1812, we've got the Indian Wars, we've got the Mexican War, you've got Vietnam, you've got Korea, you've got World War I, World War II, and as many as we have been able to locate and identify, we have a brick for each one of those people in that circle. And that's at the center of a Y-shaped sidewalk. And in the Y-shaped sidewalk, we have brick pavers. Now, we start off with about 150 Revolutionary War veterans who are buried in this county. Of course, there wasn't a Tennessee in the Revolutionary War, but they migrated here either with land grants or they came across the mountains and they settled here, and they died and were buried here. So we've got about 150 of those we've been able to identify. And then we have a section, people like you and me, in the service, served, got out, went on with our lives, and then when we passed, our families or friends or someone, schoolmates, honored us with a brick in that sidewalk. Now, you can't get an awful lot of information on a brick, but the name is there, the rank, the branch of service, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, all 5 branches, and the date of birth and the date of death. Then you've got the KIAs, and it shows the war they were in. We've got one Medal of Honor winner, and the Medal of Honor was a guy named George Jordan. He was the first sergeant of a Cav troop in the 9th Cav. He was born a slave and was freed when the Federals occupied this area, joined the American Army, for the Federal Army, was posted out in Arizona, New Mexico, and he won the Medal of Honor fighting the Apaches out there at a place called Tularosa. And so we just one Medal of Honor winner in all of Williamson County's history. And then we've started a new section, which will be open this year, of men or women who died while on military service, but who are not from Williamson County. And this flight I was telling you with the two companies got the Congressional Medal of Honor, not Congressional Medal, but the President's Unit Citation. I lost 18 kids in that fight, and I'm putting a brick down for each one of them this year because it's the 50th anniversary of that fight to the day. And so it works out very well. And I've been kind of pointed toward this ever since we opened that park down there. And so that section, but if someone died, say, between World War I and World War II and was in the service, they don't belong in the non-active duty group,
Correct.
and they don't belong in a KIA group, but they do belong in a separate area where they can be seen and honored, and so that's what they'll be in.
Well, and for folks that are watching this show, we really have two ceremonies down there. One in November, which most people would understand as Veterans Day.
Right.
But that's a period of time where we're doing the celebration, the bands, the marching, and the people along the sides of the sidewalks saying thank you in whatever form, fashion, and that's very, very important. But the other side of that is a period of time called Memorial Day.
That's right.
And Memorial is exactly what you have described. It's someone's given the ultimate sacrifice for this country, either protect his country or his fellow comrade, whatever it may be. And I'm like you, I don't think we can ever do enough for our veterans. Now, you and I may be a little prejudiced, but for those men and women, and the majority of those are men. 100 years from now, that may change some because there's more women now in the military. But today, in 2016, the Memorial Day services are services that last about 45 minutes, and it's as good a ceremony as you will see anywhere throughout the United States in terms of limited speech, but it's very, very ceremonial and solemn.
Well, I've had some people tell me that they've been to lots of these services, and ours ranks right along with the best of them. And it is, like you say, it is a service that honors and memorializes veterans all across the spectrum, any branch, any job, as long as they wore the uniform and they wore it honorably, they're a veteran. And we recognize these individuals, and like I say, you can't say an awful lot on a brick, but these bricks will be there. It's a forever situation.
There's a poem that I know you're familiar with, and the poem is called The Dash.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching this show, I encourage you to pull that up on one of your electronic devices if you can. If you can't, go down to the public library. And it's a poem that talks about the dash from the time that one is born to the time one is dead. It's that little dash that is his whole life. And the poem is built off from that. And it's very, very heartfelt. And I forget the name of the author, but I have heard that read at many a funeral, explaining what happened during this individual's life. But
the years bracket the past.
The years bracket the past. Let's go back to Stan. You've seen a lot of changes, not only in local government, just here in this county.
Well, Rogers, when we built our house, Cotton Lane was a dirt road, and the paving stopped when Cottonwood came in. Of course, the paving stopped at Hillsborough Road, and it was dirt road from Hillsborough Road all the way across the bridge down Del Rio Pike and on back into Franklin that way. And the paving came in probably in Cottonwood, Meadow Green, came in the late 60s and early 70s, so it was paved then. But that was all farm country. They raised horses across the road from us where Fieldstone Farms is now. And there was a gentleman named Bridges Jones raised racehorses over there and had a stable, and he raced horses in the United States at different places. So it has changed tremendously. 23,000 people was the population of this county in '64. It's what now,
About 202,000.
About 202,000 now, and growing faster than we can stack them. And so it's a growing county, it's a progressive county, and changes nostalgically hurt. But when you think of what this county has to be able to do in the future, these changes are necessary and they're important, and I think they're well planned, well organized. But the worst thing is, the better you plan it and the better you organize it, the more people are going to come to enjoy the good life, because we've got, I think, the best roads that you're going to find anywhere in this state, maybe in the South. We've got the best school system. And we've got a group of people who are coming here that are educated, they're productive, they are cooperative, and they're interested in getting involved in the life of the county. And you tie all those things together, and you do have a county that's going to draw people like a magnet, and you've done an awful lot of this just because you've been sitting where you are. People know about this county because of the reputation of the government. And you told us down at the Highway Board one time that a penny of sales tax brings in $825,000 or so per penny. But we've got counties in this state that one penny brings in less than $10,000. You can't buy a car, a police car. And so that's why back in the old days, Franklin had 3 police cars. And the numbers were like number 7 and number 14 and number 23. And I couldn't figure that out, where all the rest of these cars were. They didn't exist. But that's what the budget would allow. Nowadays, we've got probably the best sheriff's department that you're going to find anywhere in this state. And it's because of good management, and it's because of very, very careful planning and being frugal where frugality is necessary, but yet being progressive enough to understand that if we build this, it's going to better the life of the people who live in this county.
So what makes Stan Tyson want to serve and still participate? I mean, once a month I get to see you. People that are watching this show will know you in a lot of different capacities, but one of the things you do, you have a region that you're responsible for as a road commissioner. You check those roads, you call in, you verify, you look at their budgets, et cetera, et cetera. But what makes Stan Tyson still want to be as active as you are? You're involved in the American Legions here in town. You are very engaged in your church in Bethlehem Methodist up on Loop Road. I mean, it's just like the clock just keeps ticking. Now, I know your daddy was well over 100 when he passed away.
He was 104 when he left us.
104.
There you go.
And I mean, you're not to 104, but you're not too far from 104.
Well, I got 19 to go. If I can.
And so you're still pretty productive individual here in our community.
Rogers, I enjoy it. I enjoy people. I kid my wife saying the Bible says where 2 or more gathered. Well, at church, where 2 or more gathered, she'd be talking to one of them. and I'm the same way. I love to talk to people. I love to engage with people. I've got a sense of humor, and I've enjoyed that all my life. And I like to listen to people laugh, and I like to get involved in the business of the county because I'm just curious enough to know where the dollar is being spent, know why it's being spent and how it's being spent and what we get from that dollar. And that to me is very important.
Was that your upbringing with your mom and dad?
Yeah, to be frank with you, when I went to work as early as I possibly could.
But did you have a choice?
Well, not really. It was my mother gave me a clothespin one time wooden clothespin with part of it broken off, and one tongue, one leg of it, was cut into an angle. And she said, "This is for you." And I said, "What am I going to do with this?" She said, "You're going to start washing windows. And this is to help you get the Bon-Ami soap out of the corners." And so I washed windows for a nickel a window or a penny a pane. And didn't make a heck of a lot of money, but I had a little step ladder, and I'd wash windows and do this sort of thing. I hauled groceries in a coaster wagon. I carried newspapers for the Banner Tennessean for about 4 years and saved enough money to pay for my first year in college. But money was not the most important thing, but money was something that you didn't spend, and you didn't spend it if you didn't have it. I guess one of the things that we've always kind of prided ourselves on is we don't owe anybody anything. We owe a lot of people a lot of things, but not monetarily.
Right.
And we paid our way. And when I went off to college, it was expected I would work whatever jobs. I took jobs painting the house as a scab when a painters union went out one time, and I also worked down at the stockyards in Knoxville, and I sold programs at the football games, and of course the ROTC money came in starting in the junior year, and that was a godsend.
Yeah.
But I worked most all my life, and the idea of working for what you had was bred into me, and so we never expected anything. We got an awful lot, but like I told a friend down at church, if I'd have had that car when I was in college, I'd still be a sophomore at UT. But and we didn't, and we walked, and we enjoyed it, and it was a good life. And I came out of it. I think my best experience was as a newspaper boy, because I was up every morning at 4 o'clock. My route would be finished by 6. I'd come home and have breakfast with my folks, and I'd go to school. I'd have the afternoon route. I'd be on the route by 4:30, 4:45, and be back home by 6:30, in time to have supper and do my homework. But this was every day for about maybe 3.5, 4 years, and we were getting roughly a penny a paper. You had the Banner Tennessean. If you took both papers, you paid 50 cents a week. You got a single Sunday. If you took one paper and got a Sunday, it cost 35 cents a week. I got a bill from the Banner Tennessean, or the Banner, not the Banner, but the Tennessean. They want $90 for the next quarter. $90 for
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and at a penny a paper, it had taken me a long time to raise that $90. 9,000 papers.
I thought you were going to tell me that you used to sell the newspaper that was around when I was a boy called The Grit.
No, I sold Liberty magazines.
Yeah, Liberty magazines. I remember that. That's right in there with Fuller brush salesman back in those. And I forgot the name of the potato chip company. They had them in a can. I think maybe Charlie's or something like that. But I mean, all of those jobs is you've done. Maybe I've not done the same ones, but that was just what was expected of you as a boy.
The best money I made selling papers was when VJ Day came. World War II ended. This is in September of '45, and they called me from the Banner office and said, "Do you want to sell extras?" And I said, "How many can I get?" And they said, "We can get you 100. And I said, "Where do you want me?" And they said, "The corner of Natchez Trace and West End." And so I went down there, and the truck came, and he dropped off 100 papers. Now, those 100 papers cost me $2.16 for the entire 100 papers, because they were 2 6 cents a piece.
Right.
And I caught the Vanderbilt crowd going to Nashville to celebrate the war was over with, and they didn't have to go. And of course, we always thought Vanderbilt had more money than anybody else in town, and it was $5, $10 for a paper. And I went home with money stuck in every pocket I had. And I walked in the door, and Daddy said, "What are you doing here so early?" And I said, "I've run out of papers." He said, "Well, did they all sell?" And I started dumping this out. He says, "Can you get some more?"
That was the young entrepreneur spirit in you.
I tell you, man, there's a way to make money in this world.
Stan, I know our time is getting short, and I want to say thank you for all your service, but I also want to give recognition to your lovely bride. I know she's been a faithful companion of yours for many years, and you've had some great children.
We've been married for 62 years now, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
That little Lane girl was good.
I'll tell you what, I had my redheaded wife and a redheaded daughter, and there were days when the flames were burning at the house when I got there. In fact, there were times when I worked in the Pentagon, there was less pressure in the Pentagon than it was when I was coming through that door at home. But things have changed. My wife added more to my military career than I could have ever done by myself. She was the perfect wife. She fit in. The young wives, the young women in the battalion, or in the groups that we were in, would come to her for advice. Now, she was just a country girl. She was a farm girl, and she didn't have a lot of experience, but she had a lot of smarts and a lot of common sense. And she knew how to do things and how to accomplish things and how to get people to do things. And to be frank with you, they adored her as much as I did. And my son and my daughter, my son was an air controller, just retired. My daughter currently works for the county. She was a youth service officer, and now she's working with the magistrates. She's my wife and our best friend. And she said she was the perfect juvenile service officer because she had done most of the stuff that those kids being
I hope
charged
she
with.
doesn't watch this show.
Probably not. But anyway, we couldn't have asked for better kids. They were good Army kids. Teresa went to 12 different schools and just moved from one to the other just like water, and adopted to them or adapted to them. Son was the same way. We had problems, but we never had problems with our children, and that was a blessing.
Stan, we got 1 minute left to go, and again,
I'm not through yet.
I know you're not.
Okay.
You could talk forever, and this show could be an extra hour, and we'd never get in all of your adventures because that's just who you are. And people that know you, love you. The people that have been around you respect you. You're a man of great integrity, and I thank you for what you have brought to Williamson County. And I am certainly glad Nashville lost you. And I'm glad you found that little Lane girl to bring you back down here because you've added so much for the livability.
I didn't get into the story about the time we turned the monkey loose in Woolworth's 5 and Dime on Hillsborough, but that's a different story.
We'll just pass on that one. That'll probably save us a lot of grief. Stan Tyson's been with us today, and if you get a chance to see him down at the local store at church, you're seeing a real classy man. Thank you, Stan, for being with us.
My pleasure, Rogers.
Thank you. We'll see you around the county as we journey throughout Williamson County to find some of our better folks. Have a good day.